Hi, I'm Benjamin Payne. At the K-12 Education Office at Hillsdale College, we support school founding groups and their efforts to start classical schools across the country. Finding the right leader is one of the first and most important steps to building a successful school. While we do consider experience in education, we seek candidates who exhibit unwavering personal integrity, honesty, courage, and servant-hearted leadership. Perhaps that's you. If you're looking to engage in fulfilling, impactful, and challenging work protecting our nation's future and building up the next generation of virtuous citizens, we'd love to hear from you. I'm looking for strong school leaders right now. Learn more about how you can make a difference at hillsdale.edu/leader. hillsdale.edu/LEADER. That's hillsdale.edu/leader.
Welcome to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, bringing you insight into classical education and its unique emphasis on human virtue and moral character, responsible citizenship, content-rich curricula, and teacher-led classrooms. Now your host, Scot Bertram.
Thanks for listening. The Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast is part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you get your audio. You also can find more information on topics and ideas discussed on this show at our website, k12.hillsdale.edu. We're talking today with Jenny Pridgeon. She's Director of Field Recruitment for the Admissions Department here at Hillsdale College. Jenny, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Talking today about letters of recommendation and also high school resumes. And we start with the letters of recommendation, which I'm always pleased to get that note, honestly. As I teach journalism here, and so I get letters from our journalism students saying, will you please do this for me? And for me, it's an enjoyable process. I don't know if it's the case across the board. We'll talk a bit about that today. Generally, though, I mean, is it worth the time to take it seriously, to write a thorough and a thoughtful letter of recommendations for students? Is it even worth the trouble? Do they make a difference?
They do, yes. I think it can be really overwhelming for a lot of, especially beloved high school teachers who probably get, tens of 20s of requests like this every year. And I know that it can be quite a burden, but it can be really transformational to us in the application process. It really gives a lot of life to an application. It gives some really good background on a student. It helps us either verify or contradict certain things that a student has said, and not necessarily that we're looking to contradict things, but just, it can really be supportive, and it can give these examples that really bring alive a student and all they've told us, but we haven't really gotten a chance to see it yet because they've just sent us paper, and that's a really hard thing to see.
What do colleges like Hillsdale want to see? What do they like to see in these letters of recommendations from teachers or counselors?
Great question. So I think the most important things for us when a student asks for, hey, what should I ask my teacher to write about? The three things we normally say is, can you tell us about the student's character, about their work ethic, and then about their academic abilities, really. And to do those things, we find examples to be the most useful. So what is the student actually like in a classroom? Maybe they're really horrible at Spanish, but you've never seen a student work harder in your life, And so even saying the true thing, but then giving the background of, but we think this actually makes the student a really good fit for the college, it can be so helpful. I mean, they're going to find hard things at Hillsdale, and we want to know, when that happens, are they going to dig in and push forward, or are they going to sort of give up and back off? So even saying that they've struggled with something and that then they've worked through it can be really good.
Anything in particular that should be avoided in writing these letters of recommendation?
I think, we like to know how you know the student, but an excessive autobiography can really detract from the amount of space that you have to write about the student. And I think sometimes it's been, really distracting and takes up maybe a third of the space or a half of the space. And really, we'd love if the letters could stay to about a page.
Yes.
And so if you can use those mostly to explain the student, that's really ideal. And then I think the other thing that you should avoid is I know it can be tempting to use a template. And in some ways, I think templates can be really great, but you have to be so careful. We've gotten letters regarding different students from the same person before, and they've used almost the exact same words and the exact same descriptions. And I don't think they were paying enough attention to realize that's what they had done. And maybe those things were still true, but it made it a lot less impactful.
Let me ask an am I doing it the wrong way question. Because I write these not for college admissions, but for internships and jobs and things like that. And I'm a journalist. And so I think about writing in a way where what's my lead, right?
Yes.
And so I like to begin a letter with a brief, again, because we keep it to a page, but some sort of brief anecdote that really shows a student's character, work ethic, but also perhaps makes the reader want to continue reading that letter.
Yes. Oh, we love that. Yeah. A little bit of color, description, those things are really great. There are some particular teachers at the academy who always write really just lively letters of recommendation. And I always look forward to those. So I think that personal, don't just try to push it into a template. I think bringing that real knowledge that you have of the student and that story makes it really memorable.
Is it a good idea to try to customize a letter like this for a particular institution? So a Hillsdale letter different than a University of Michigan letter or a Columbia letter or something like that. Does it make sense to sort of look at where you're sending it and try to craft something that might be more interesting or more impactful for someone at that college or university?
Good question. I think we appreciate it when we say this student is a great fit for Hillsdale because of one particular thing. But we understand that is not always possible, and that the amount of time that would take would be potentially very onerous to the writer. So I think though it would be helpful or good, I don't think it's so transformational that you feel like that you should feel like you have to. I do think that if Hillsdale's at the top of the list for a student, or if you do feel that the student is a particular fit for this particular college, whatever that college is, it might be worth your time for that one variation, but certainly not 10 variations if a student's a very ambitious applicant.
For teachers or counselors who do get asked by a number of students to write these letters, are there circumstances in which you should decline that offer? And how do you have that conversation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do think we tell students to ask and say, hey, could you write me a positive letter of recommendation? Because you should always make sure that that's something that the teacher's willing to do. If you're worried that a student may not have a lot of great options and you're willing to put some time into describing their potential, then maybe giving it a try would still be good. But I do think that if you feel like it would be a real struggle to have positive things to say about the student and maybe college isn't the right fit for them, then I think having that opportunity and saying that you want what's best for them and that you don't know if Hillsdale's the right fit.
You're looking for character, work ethic, academy. Maybe you're a baseball coach and you work really intensely on work ethic, maybe some character.
Sure.
Not so much on the academic side. Is it okay to sort of say that? And like, I haven't had the student in the classroom, but I can talk to these attributes.
Certainly. As an admissions office, we do ask for 2 academic letters of recommendation, but we do invite a third if the student has someone like their baseball coach who could really speak to some of those qualities. And we would love for that to be the third letter. Sometimes students, like a homeschooled student, has a hard time finding academic writers. But I think in most cases, we do like to see the academic side. But a lot of characteristics that a student has can be applied, like from the baseball field to the classroom. And so it certainly isn't the end of the world if the best person to write for you is your coach. And I think acknowledging like, hey, I don't have them in class, but I see these characteristics and these traits would be really still helpful.
So you say you're looking for 2, maybe 3.
Yes.
Are more letters always better? How does that work?
Students sometimes send us 7, 8, 9, 10, and hopefully they all get really repetitive, right? They're all saying good things and probably all similar things. So we really appreciate when a student stops at 3. We have a lot of applications to read. Counselors read all those applications. And so we've found that 3 really sort of plumbs the depths of what we need to know. And at that point, we'd love for you to stop.
And is it helpful at all to have someone with a recognizable name writing that letter of recommendation for a student?
Not always, only if that person really knows them well. If all they can say is, oh, wow, I've met this person one time. They were great at bringing me coffee. That's not very helpful to us. And so I do get students asking that a number of times. Oh, I know the senator. I know this person. Should I have them write a letter? And the answer is always only if they know you well.
Going back, character, work ethic, and academics you're looking to see in perhaps a letter of recommendation. Do you put additional weight or more weight on any particular sector as you review a letter of recommendation for a student?
I would probably say if we had to choose, it would be some combination of work ethic or character, probably actually less academics, because we can see that in their transcript, potentially in a test score if they've taken one, in the writing. We can see if they have the horsepower to make it at Hillsdale. And so kind of what's behind all that is more helpful to us.
I've had to do this a couple of times now, and counselors and teachers likely do too. And hopefully, in the way you mentioned before, they're writing something specific for each student. I've had students going for the same job with the same internship, and they're both Hillsdale grads or both Hillsdale seniors, and they don't know they're going for the same job, and they both asked me to write a letter of recommendation, and I'm happy to do so. But what I tell them every year in the beginning is, everything matters, because at some point I've got to make some sort of differentiating remark about what makes you different from this Hillsdale graduate. You've both gone through taken the same core curriculum. You've both done all these things. So my point being, if you are a teacher or a counselor and you've got two students who are applying to the same college, what are some of those things that maybe would be interesting to you as a director of field recruitment for the admissions department to differentiate one student from a particular high school from another student at a particular high school?
Yeah. We don't like superlatives if they're not true, but I do think, it is helpful to us, especially from schools that we know, which is, probably a number of the people listening to this, they come from schools that are connected to the college in some way, that to say, oh, wow, this is one of the best students I've ever had is certainly helpful. But we don't expect you to say that, again, if it isn't true. And so speaking specifically to how their characteristics might connect really well or thrive at a place like Hillsdale can be good. And as much as we really appreciate your desire to differentiate, you can leave that to us. You don't have to feel the responsibility of, I'm going to write these 2 letters. I need to decide which one I want to be there more. We do have a holistic application review process. And so there are a lot of other things that we're looking at. And this is, though, really important, not the only thing.
Yeah. Jenny Pridgeon's with us. She's director of field recruitment for the admissions department at Hillsdale College, talking letters of recommendation and now high school resumes. So in the admissions department here, at least, what role does a high school resume play? Thinking back to my process, which is now, 20X years ago, I don't remember doing a resume. I remember, application and letters. I don't remember doing a resume. Is that something that's somewhat new, or what role does that play in your review process?
Yeah, great question. So the resume is newly required from Hillsdale admissions.
Okay.
It's always been kind of a piece of the application you could fill out if you wanted to, but you didn't have to if you didn't. And we've just realized that as we've gotten more competitive in our admissions process, knowing what a student is involved in outside the classroom can be really differentiating to us. So we do require it. There's the common application, which has a spot for it. And then Hillsdale's application has a place where you can either upload one or input all the information. Or if a student wants to send it, separately, that's completely fine. And it's really good. It helps us understand what a student might be like outside the classroom, what's important to them, how they spend their time. We've realized more and more just this community aspect is so important at the college. And so not just, okay, you're going to show up to class and do your work, but are you going to get engaged in student life? Are you going to care about what happens in your residence hall? Are you going to dig in and involve yourself in places like the radio station, things like that. And so we really enjoy seeing what makes the student them outside the classroom.
So what sorts of things would you like to see or should be placed on an activity resume that's going to give you a better chance to learn about a particular student?
So I think some students think, resume means job experience. And so I don't really have anything to write, especially because a lot of students can't start working until they're 16. So a job experience is certainly included, or should be, but we also like to see service. We like to see clubs and organizations within your school, involvement in things like church or Boy Scouts or whatever it is that you're doing in the community. All those things are really helpful. Really anything that you're doing between the 9th and 12th grade years. And then we ask sort of how much time do you give to that thing? Some students will do a lot in one area. They'll get their beautiful ballet dancers and like their whole life is spent in the studio. And they'll say, oh, is that better? Or should I get involved in, 17 things like some students do? And the answer is we like lots of different students at Hillsdale. And so don't do something just for the resume. Do it because you love it. And usually we can tell that it's important to you. So some students, are a 3-sport athlete. Some students will be in one sport and then in theater, and then they help their grandma out every Sunday. And so really anyway, it doesn't have to be an official thing for you to include it on your resume. If it's just something that you spend a lot of your time doing, we'd love to hear about it.
Is that something in which you'd like to perhaps hear? Parents listen to these shows as well and have students. Is that something, at least here at Hillsdale, you want to hear somewhere in that process? This is something I wish to continue at Hillsdale in some way, whether it's a service project or I'm going to continue to play trumpet or whatever it might be. Do you kind of want to know, here are the things I think I might want to keep doing, non-academic?
Yes, I think it is helpful, especially for us to picture where they might find a group of people that they'd fit in with at the college. It's not essential. We really highly recommend an admissions interview as part of your application process. And usually we're able to pull those things out of that conversation. But there is kind of a place to mark, I want to keep doing this in college. And so feel free to mark that.
Jenny Pridgeon is Director of Field Recruitment for Admissions here at Hillsdale College, talking about letters of recommendation and high school resumes here today. Jenny, thanks so much for joining us here on the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it.
I'm Scot Bertram. We invite you to like us on Facebook. Search for Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education. You also can follow us on Instagram at Hillsdale_K-12. That's Hillsdale_K-12 on Instagram. Thank you for listening to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you get your audio.